Hey there, welcome back. This is Crafting Your Professional Portfolio, Unit 3, where we're going to talk about composing your portfolio. And I'm Alvalin Lundgren, and I take the point on the conversation and hopefully guide you to your destination. Just a reminder, our goal is to develop a flexible, professionally presented print and digital portfolio that is uniquely yours and communicates your approach, point of view, expertise, and the kind of work you want to do. First, we're going to talk about the process of selecting work to include in your portfolio. Last session, we were talking about the overall big picture portfolio strategy. In this session, we're getting down to a little more tactical understanding in terms of how we go about creating a targeted portfolio that's going to get you where you want to go based on your career focus. First thing to do is keep in mind, what's the portfolio for? What do you want it to do for you? What are your goals for it? If you keep the why in mind, you're going to be better off because you're going to be more objective and be able to incorporate the right kind of work into your portfolio that's going to get you the job or the clients that you hope for. So keep these in mind. What do you want to achieve? What do you want the portfolio to accomplish for you? And how will you measure whether it gets the job done for you? Are you getting clients? Are you getting interviews? Are you getting job offers? Is basically what it comes down to. So a basic process that you can take is to not look at an individual piece of work and then another individual piece of work. Lay out all your possible candidates for inclusion in the portfolio in front of you. Lay them out on the floor, a large table, put them all on the screen, and look at them as a group. Not everybody does this, but this is something that I've always done when looking at student work and helping them compose portfolios, because it gives you a big picture idea. It allows you to see common themes. It allows you to see things that are better crafted, better thought out, and immediately recognize those works that are weaker in those areas. You don't want to include weak work in your portfolio. You can also pinpoint fairly quickly the kind of work that is geared toward the kind of job or client that you want to get. So you start with the big picture, lay out everything in front of you that's a possible candidate for your portfolio. Look for common ground, look for high level of craftsmanship, look for really strong creative solutions, innovative ideas, and design thinking, and then look for work that is going to get you the kind of job you want. This is important. Any work that you're feeling comfortable with, because you know it's not up to standard, get rid of it. Your portfolio is only going to be as good as your weakest link. Get rid of anything that is not of the kind of quality that you want to use to represent yourself. Select the work that represents you the best. Creative thinking is problem-solving ability. Include work that doesn't push too far beyond the boundaries, that's not too avant-garde, because you have to have a real strong practical bent to your work, because if you're getting a job as a designer or illustrator or photographer, you're going to be working with businesses and organizations for the most part. You're not going to be hanging your work on a gallery wall. So there's a difference. You have to think creatively in terms of meeting needs and solving problems for people, whether they're communication problems or they're what to wear tomorrow if you're a fashion designer. So you want to select work that represents problem solving. Keep things current. 3 years is probably the limit that you want to go back in terms of work. There's work that I really love that I did 10 years ago. It still is probably viable today, but there's things about it that kind of make it look a little dated. So I don't include that in my portfolio. It sits away in my project archives. You want to show current work because it means you're currently working. One of the things you can do is update older work. Your book needs to be cohesive, and by book I mean portfolio, whether it's on your website or it's in your hand. It needs to all fit together. So every piece of work that you include helps to form your overall brand as a creative. It's going to be the basis of what you become known for doing, and it's going to be the springboard for your growth and maturity as a photographer, designer, or illustrator. You will move from where your portfolio is now into new areas of greater strength, areas of greater capability, which is all part of your brand, and your brand is what you are known for. The portfolio is not there just to get you the job, it's a springboard into your future. Another aspect about being cohesive with your portfolio is that everything in it should look like you created it. I've looked at so many portfolios where it looks like different people created the work. You need it to look like you, it needs to show your expertise and your skill, so you can't have such a wide breadth of work that it looks like you didn't create it. The work should be targeted toward the kind of work you want to get. It is, again, not an archive of work you've done in the past. There are a couple things on my website as I'm recording this that are not client work, but they're work that I created for the purpose of attracting the kind of client I want to work with. So if you have work in your portfolio that you created as a means of promoting yourself, that is perfectly fine. As many years as I've been out of school, I still do this. This is a tactic that I learned while I was in school, and I've used it throughout my career. And I'm handing it off to you so that you can use it throughout yours. Your portfolio has to be a group or family of work. It all has to have the same DNA, the same genetic structure. So all your work has to look like it came from you. And in looking like it all came from one person, the idea of a complete group or family of work is there's a strong sense of unity among the work. Unity is reliable. You are consistent in your capability, so there is a familial sense that sits around all your work. So if you have any questions about composing your portfolio based on what we've just covered, please ask them in the session forum. And I want to move on to discussing storyline. So once you settle on a few different pieces, you have to look at things practically. Your portfolio needs to have an obvious, shall we say, flow that makes sense. So you can group work together in terms of colors, in terms of the use of angles and implied lines, even in terms of subject matter. And always, if you have a variety of pieces that revolve around the same project or design solution, then those multifaceted projects should be, all the component pieces should be grouped together in the same territory in your portfolio. Once you have chosen your candidates based on your expertise, the kind of work you want to get, and the quality of the work, then you need to sort them and put them in an order that's going to make sense for presentation. Probably the worst thing you can do is have sort of a checkerboard where you have things next to each other that don't make sense and there's no correlation between the two pieces. And then you go to the third piece and it doesn't relate to the second one, but it might relate better to the first one. Think about, if you're opening a magazine, how do you want that to flow for you? So approach your portfolio composition and ordering of the work in the same way. If you've studied design theory, you should have an understanding that aesthetics as a set of principles and elements are universal. There are universal design principles that describe a user interaction or a user awareness of how those design aesthetic principles are deployed. The aesthetic principles are how we see information. You know, we walk out our front door, we see cars passing on the street, so we see motion, we see positive and negative space, we see light and shadow, so we've got light logic going on, we've got chroma and lack of chroma going on, we've got all these contrasts, we see how things are ordered and structured in our world visually, and that's all aesthetic and aesthetic principles. Universal design principles deal more with the interaction of a person with things that are designed and things that are naturally existing. So it's psychological, but again, it's universal. These things actually have been studied, observed, and coalesced into what's known as universal design principles. Universal, they apply universally. Some of those principles you may have heard of: Occam's razor, the Gestalt principles, the 80-20 rule, the rule of thirds. One of those universal principles is the concept of serial position. Whenever you have a series of something or you've got a list of things, the serial position effect is invoked. So you go to the grocery store, you forget your list at home, but you remember the first thing and the last thing you wrote on your list. It's harder to remember the things that were in the middle of the list. This happens to everybody. It's the way our brains are wired, pretty much. Unless we have eidetic memory, which means we have a photographic memory, we won't be able to recall everything on the list unless we've somehow got it memorized. And most of us don't memorize grocery lists. So the serial position effect is something you should seriously use in your portfolio. You want to put your weaker work between your stronger work. So your stronger work is going to be the bookends or the chocolate part of the Oreo cookie, and your weaker work will be the filling. There's also, among those design principles, the idea of primacy. People will remember the first thing they see in a sequence longer. So if a decision is going to be made, in other words, they're looking to hire and going to make a decision within a period of weeks, then your strongest needs to go first because that's what they're going to remember. However, if they're looking for an immediate fill, they're going to remember what they last see. So that means that things in the middle of your portfolio are not going to be remembered as easily as things on either end. So that's between the primacy and the recency effect. Your serial positioning mandates that you are leading and ending with your strongest pieces. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is also related to Gestalt, but it's the similarity principle. People will group things that are similar or alike into a single thing, and then they remember what is different. If you group all of your logo designs in one part of the book and all of your page layouts in another, they're going to remember a group, but it'll be harder to pick out an individual thing. You need to stagger your pieces so that each one kind of stands on its own and they don't fuse together as somebody's flipping through the book. Another thing is to not be confusing. You are not good at everything. You can't be good at everything, so don't try to show everything. So that goes back to what we talked about in the second session about targeting and editing as a overall strategy. So now we'll look at portfolio formats, and one of the big questions that people ask is, do I need a physical portfolio? And the answer to that is, it depends upon what you want to do. If you're doing anything that's related to print or anything related to books, having a physical portfolio is a really good idea, because then people can flip through and they get a sense of the print. It's a different kind of interactive activity than going online and interacting with clicks and things like that through a mouse or through a stylus. Also, if you drop off your portfolio at an agency or a firm, you need a physical book to drop off. If a physical book is an expectation at a go-see or a portfolio review, definitely take your physical book. Essentially, you should look at having portfolios in both formats, a physical and a digital. So a digital portfolio is obviously your website, and I'm serious about this when I say seriously. You need your own website. Just putting your work up on an online portfolio, that's not enough. You need your own website that you control. Online directories are kind of like placing ads. In addition to your website, seriously consider online directories as appropriate. If you're more of a fine artist or a visual developer, you do cartoon or fantasy art or comic book art, you might want to check out DeviantArt. There's Dripbook. Core 77 is more for industrial designers. The workbook obviously focuses on graphic design, illustration, and photography as their top three groups of advertisers. Design Taxi is related to Creative Finder. They are online portfolios. You can log on, set up an account, and showcase your portfolio. Dribbble is another one where you can do that. Dribbble is also similar to Behance, which I'll get to in a moment. And Creative Hotlist is now owned by Communication Arts Magazine. They have job postings for freelance as well as employment. It's a good place to search and look for work, and it's a good place to put up your portfolio, and it doesn't cost that much. So online directories would be in addition to your own website. Any of the online directories are not things that you own. You're basically renting space. So you are subject, just like on Facebook and YouTube, to their algorithms and their decisions. The same thing is true with the online directories. Behance is now owned by Adobe, so you set up an account under your Adobe login information. It is free. Pretty much always been free. It is a place to post work in progress, finished work. It's a place to kind of showcase your overall creative development. It is used a lot by illustrators and designers. It's used less by photographers at this point. And I also recommend that you have a downloadable, printable, shareable book in the form of a PDF. And a PDF is something that you can decide whether you're going to make it available to everybody or you're just going to send the download link to certain people. Having a PDF version of your portfolio is a really good idea just for convenience for the people you're trying to reach. So getting on to your physical portfolio, there's a variety of styles that you can think about, a variety of formats. One is a screw post binder, and that kind of looks like this. So you're in a hardcover binder and everything is locked in via screw posts, and you basically have holes punched in the ends of the pages. And you can do directly printed pages, or you can get sleeves to fit and your prints go in the sleeves. A spiral bound is just that. Usually it's going to be soft cover, it can be hard cover, but a spiral bound book is another thing I've seen recently. It's not as popular as the screw post binder. The loose leaf sleeve binder has been around for a while, and that would be this concept. This is a ring binder, and then you have the sleeves can come out and be interchangeable. This is easily editable. The post binder also is easily editable. A spiral bound binder is not. So you want to consider, if you are targeting your portfolio, is something spiral bound going to be helpful. Printed hardcover books are also pretty popular. They really aren't that expensive. You would be creating a monograph or just a few places like Blurb, Presto Photo, and Shutterfly print hardbound books. And so this is a hardbound book, and there's also folio covers and things like that that you can get to go along with these things. I think over here she's got a spiral bound thing. But this is another popular way to present your work. The thing about the hardbound book, you can't edit it. You're basically stuck until you get a new book printed. So you cannot specifically target toward a certain client or employer. A zine, and you can do this as a PDF, but a zine would be a printed format. Helpful if you're a book or publication designer, you want to design magazines, you want to design things that are touchy-feely like business cards and corporate identity systems. A printed magazine format such as this, just a basic saddle stitch, it's on tabloid-sized paper and single fold. It's fairly inexpensive to have digitally printed, and you can also print up a bunch and use them as leave-behinds for specific clients. And basically flip cards are a deck of your work, and each piece of work or each group of work is on a single sheet. So this is a flip card idea, and the benefit of that is not only is it highly editable, but you can spread everything out in front of you and look at it as a group, as a body of work, or you can look at things individually or groups of things individually. So the flip card I don't see that much now. It used to be really popular when I got out of school, but for versatility, flexibility, you cannot beat the flip card idea. Your third assignment for this class is to start putting together your portfolio. We're going to make a first draft, and then we're going to refine it later on. So walking through the steps I talked about in the video, you're going to assemble possible candidates for your portfolio, and out of those you're going to select between 5 and 12 pieces. And that is a general number. There's no specific number or quantity of pieces that you have to have in your portfolio, but for our purposes, we're going to look at between 5 and 12. You'll want to select work that best represents the kind of work you want to do, things that you're good at, and work that represents how you think. And you're going to take those and either photograph them or scan them or create JPEG or PNG files and create a PDF that contains each image on its own page. So it's one PDF, multiple pages, one portfolio piece on a page. For each piece, include the purpose of the design or the image as a title. So it might be visual development. And then underneath that or next to that, you're going to include a statement of why you included the work. So the why statement at this point is for our class purposes only. It is not something that you would include in the portfolio to show prospective clients or employers. But this is going to give me and all of you a good idea of the direction you want to go, and it gives us for a basis for feedback. And include a title page with your name. And if you're running under a business name already, include the business name as well. When you complete the PDF, just upload it to the coursework submission area in session 3, and I'll see you on the inside. Let me know if you have any questions on this.